So when did you first start questioning your birth assigned gender?
Like 20s.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, like when I hit 21, maybe.
Aren't you still in your 20s?
I'm still in my 20s.
Yeah, I was like,
So when I say 20s, I mean
early 20s?
I mean 20 and 21. I'm still in my 20s.
As someone in their 30s, I need you to like clarify that you're still Baby Cakes McGee over here.
I am still Baby Cakes McGee over here.
But in your teen years, you still identified as fairly heteronormative and
Okay, so I and many people my age have had no exposure to the concept of not being the gender that you were assigned at birth.
Right.
And especially as someone who's raised super orthodox, there's even more so. Like there's no reference to not being heterosexual, let alone not being cisgender. And then in like when I was 21 or so, and I started going to play parties and I started meeting other trans individuals, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is possible. But the thing is, I was meeting binary trans people, which means that they had either transitioned from male to female or from female to male. And I had not met anyone who is not binary or genderqueer. I wasn't introduced to the concept of pronouns until I was 21. And I was like, wait, I can use something other than what people have been using for me my whole life. That's amazing.
When did you first start?
When I was 22 or 23.
And in what capacity?
I asked my friends and my at the time girlfriend to play around with these different pronouns.
Which ones?
So when I first started out, I asked people to start using they and them. And by asked people, I mean I asked my roommate, I asked my girlfriend, and I asked my best friend. And I said, please use these pronouns when I'm with you. This isn't public yet. This is just something I am messing around with.
Wow. Is that a common way? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Common ways for people who have proper support, who have supportive support systems.
Yeah.
Can be asking those people in your life to play around with different pronouns and different names. I played around with a few different names before I found Dean and was like, oh my God, this is super comfortable. For a while, I was like, I think I want to be a Dylan.
Oh, that's so fun. I hadn't even considered the fact that Dean wasn't your birth name, but that makes sense.
And I played around with a few different things. Other ways that people recommend trying this out is, when the world isn't burning and dying of COVID, go to Starbucks and give a different name.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then you can actually hear that name being used outside.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know why I find that so funny. That Starbucks is like the way to try out a name, but it's so true. Like, where do we all get the chance to try it? Because so many people have had that opportunity to give a different name at Starbucks. Like, anybody can identify with that.
Yeah, and it's not like they're checking your ID to make sure that your ID
nobody cares.
the name that you're putting on your cup.
Half the time they're writing it wrong anyway, just because they think it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, many times I've gone and just been at, back in the day when I still had long blonde hair, I'd be like, hi, I'm Princess Elsa.
Right.
Or whatever.
And they probably love it.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious. And I was like, this actually isn't funny. I'm just really bored.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing around with having people you trust using different names and different pronouns is a really effective way to start, I think. And it's, I can't imagine what it must be like to be a closeted trans individual right now and not have those opportunities.
What was it like for you when you started making the transition? Just verbally, with the pronouns and everything, identity-wise.
I misgendered myself a lot. I still sometimes misgender myself.
What does it mean at this point to say that you misgender yourself now?
It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes in my head, I'll refer to myself so what I have been finding lately is that during sex, I'm comfortable with he, him pronouns, and I tend to default to those, which is interesting. And maybe it doesn't happen that often anymore, but sometimes I'll use she, her when I'm thinking about myself or writing about myself. And I'm like, is that applicable today? Oh, maybe.
But that's so interesting. It's beautiful that you have this sort of accepting approach to, that popped up. Not oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But oh, that's interesting. And let me evaluate that. Let me sit with that and see Why did it come up? How does it make me feel? I think one fear that a lot of people have when they're nervous about engaging with the community and not doing it correctly is this fear that like, oh, if I get somebody's pronoun wrong, I'm going to be seen as like a bigot or you know, and when people actually take the time to engage with the community, they recognize that, you know, no, everybody's understanding of the fact that this is something new for you and I'm asking something of you and you're trying to figure it out with me and we're human beings and it's messy and like this is all something, it's all something that we're figuring out together. And if we can have an open mind with each other and just show that our intentions are good and that we're giving the best that we can, that's the way to approach it. And that's how you bridge divides.
Yeah. And I think that I understand the apprehension of, I don't want this individual to think that I'm like intentionally misgendering them or that I'm a bigot or whatever it may be. And this is a practice that I'm trying to be better at, where I will walk into a situation, introduce myself with my name and my pronouns, right? Setting the precedent that this is how I do introductions and opening the floor for the people who I interact with to do the same, right? And if I don't know someone's pronouns, I'll ask. And it takes a lot of practice and you will mess up. And that's part of it. And I recommend people practicing with people they trust, right? Where it's okay to mess up. And I also recommend, so for instance, you know, because I am enmeshed in this at this point, it's easier for me to switch pronouns for people. But for instance, if Vivica were switching to they, them pronouns, and this is completely new for me, if I were to put your picture up on a refrigerator and every time I pass it, I speak about Vivica in the third person and use these pronouns, I can practice while I'm at home, right? And I can rewire my brain to think about this person in the way that they think about themselves and in the way that they are.
I found a really great way is like, so my primary partner, when I first met them, they were presenting as male and went by he, him pronouns. And after we started dating, they came out to me as non-binary, and they are totally fine using literally any pronoun. So she, him, they, here, ze, like they will take the whole spectrum of pronouns and they will never get offended because their gender kind of varies from day to day. So like you're never quite sure, are they feeling masculine today? Are they feeling feminine today? Are they feeling non-binary today? It's kind of like a wave, but like I have made it a very distinct point is when I am speaking about them, I always use non-binary pronouns so that it gives myself the ability to practice, especially practicing with other people who may not have as much practice because, okay, well, now you're speaking to me about my partner. And so obviously if you slip up with me, I'm not going to be offended, but I will correct you. Like, okay, you said he, they, let's keep it moving. And I think that's also something that's really great to recognize is when you slip up, instead of like making it about you where it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to misgender you. You're just like, oh, hey, sorry. I slipped up. What was your pronouns again? Yeah. And then keep it fucking moving in the conversation.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like as a trans individual who gets misgendered a lot, just say, oops, correct yourself and move on. I want to forget about it as much as you do. Trust me. And also, when you misgender me, I hear you. My ears perk up immediately. Like, so you can say oops and move on, or you can pretend it never happened, which is just uncomfortable.
For everyone involved.
Yeah. Or you can make it about yourself, which is also very uncomfortable.
Interesting.
So just say oops, correct yourself and move on.
Yep. Because we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Right.
And so acknowledging that, oh shit, I fucked up. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. And then move the fuck on. Because like, obviously you're going to assume that the person that you're speaking to is not actively trying to offend you. So if you're not actively trying to offend the person that you're speaking to, you shouldn't have to say, oh my God, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to offend you. Okay, well that should have been a fucking given. So now I have to worry about like, are you actually trying to offend me with the rest of this conversation? Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program
or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.